This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching for a simple payment solution, check out Braintree. Go to braintreepayments.com/whatthetech for more information.
What the tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarin. I'm joined by the traveling man himself, Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
The traveling man. You went cross country last week. That is insane.
Well, it's not.
I think
not completely insane. But.
Well, I can't, Paul. I can't be in a car for more than like 45 minutes. I'm done. If you are more than 45 minutes away from me, there's no way I'm driving to you.
Sure.
But you went from Las Vegas. You flew from Boston to Vegas, and you drove from Vegas to Boston.
Yep.
Any interesting road stories?
Sure. I mean, I there was a lot of weather that was kind of interesting, and in Colorado when we came up over the mountains, it was like the middle of the winter up there. They'd gotten 6 inches of snow, and the forest and the mountains were all covered in snow. It was really beautiful. I mean, I think the funny thing was just, my dad, who drove with me most of the way, is like kind of an iPhone guy, and his use of Apple technology is really humorous to me, but because he has no idea what he's doing really, but he talks to his phone, but he, so he's continually asking people. Oh, my band must be upstairs. He's continually asking people questions that he could answer himself on his phone, So
like what? Give me an example.
For example, we booked a hotel in Kansas City, Missouri, across the highway from the two stadiums that are there, the Royal Stadium and the Chiefs Stadium. They're right next to each other. So we pull into a toll booth, and he says, "Hey, do you happen to know how far it is from the stadium?" And I said, "It's 32 miles." And the guy said, "No, I don't. I could find out." I'm like, "It's 32 miles." And my dad's like, "Yeah, if you don't mind, And so the guy turns to do something, and I said, "Would you kindly drive away from here? It's exactly 32 miles from here." And he said, "How do you know that?" I said, "It's on the phone you're using to navigate to the place that we're going. It says 32 miles." It's like what, I'm reminded of this when he came to visit one time. He's sitting there with his iPhone at the kitchen table, and he asked my wife if we had a phone book. And my wife said, "Yeah, it's in your hand. It's called your iPhone."
That's a great answer.
Like, you know what I mean? And the other good one was we went, actually, it's related to the same topic. We stopped for dinner at Cracker Barrel. And
how was that fine dining experience?
By the way, it was incredibly good.
Was it really?
Oh, it was awesome. I love Cracker Barrel. But yeah, it was like chicken and dumplings kind of thing. Fantastic. This is before we booked. So actually, I booked the ticket for I booked the night at the hotel on my phone from the Cracker Barrel, right? So this would be earlier in the day, and I was looking around for a hotel room. I knew we were stopping. We wanted to get into Kansas City, Missouri, right, on the other side. Well, the other side of the state line, and I found the hotel. I found a nicely rated hotel, not expensive kind of thing. I saw it was next to the stadium.
Something that you're confident you're not going to get murdered in.
Well, okay. It was right off the highway. So I said, we should probably check to see whether the Royals are playing tonight, because if they are, we might not want to stay there. Because the game would be happening, it might be traffic, whatever. And he's like, "Yeah, okay." And so I start looking that up on the phone. The waitress walks up and she says, "Can I help you with anything or whatever?" And my dad says, "Yeah, let me ask you a question." He says, "Do you know when the next Royals game is?" And I said, "It's Sunday night in Detroit." And then she said, "No, she was kind of flustered by this question, and she's like, "No, I don't. I'm sorry. And I'm not really a sports fan or whatever." And he's like, "My father says, how could you not know what the next blah, blah, blah?" And I'm like, "It's Sunday night in Detroit." And he's like, "How do you know that?" And I said, "I have the internet in my hand, Dad."
That's so funny.
The woman just burst out laughing.
So why do you, but that's an interesting thing. Like, why do you think he uses the iPhone in that way? Like, does he just make calls on it, or does he actually do stuff on the iPhone?
Makes phone calls.
But that's about it?
As far as I could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my father's the same way with his iPhone.
He even said to me, a couple of times, I wish I had a real map. And I said, what do you mean by a real map? You mean like a paper map? A paper map that was printed 2 years ago that's already out of date? A paper map that doesn't alert you when there's traffic conditions or construction zones or alternate routes? I mean, is that what you mean by a real map? Because in the 21st century, this is a real map. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't, I'm like, if you just can't see it, I understand. I mean, but you could use the connection on your iPhone to connect to your iPad and use the iPad as the map. I mean, I just don't, it's like this kind of old school approach, and this was not in a,
I think, I
done
also
in
think
any
it's probably
mean
his
way.
habits.
I mean, it was just, we were kind of joking about it, but I mean, it's just funny to me how old.
Do you have anything that you do like that? Like I do, and Jess is baffled by this. So I do, I do a little show that's a pro wrestling podcast here on the network. And whenever there's like a pay-per-view or a Monday Night Raw when I'm watching, I actually have a notepad and I write it out. Like on the notepad by hand with a pen and paper, I write out certain things, like certain things about the match. And then I take it and I transfer it to an email. Like I actually type up an email and I send myself that email.
No, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. That's what Jess said.
I don't. No, I mean, I think we live in an age of technology excess, that we can overdo it when it comes to technology. We can walk around with our heads in our phones and walk into walls and be stupid about it. That we could be texting while we're driving a car or something like that, But I think there's kind of a right use of technology. And like, I'm not going to, for example, print photos out and make photo albums now. I don't think that makes any sense.
To have a physical
photo. I'm not going to buy CDs and listen to them in a CD player. I don't think that makes any sense. Although I might be forced to do that in my car because the one I bought is old. I just don't. I think you should embrace technology when it makes sense, when it makes life easier or better or whatever. And in the case of like the things that I just went through with the map, like maps in particular, having a fold up, a piece of paper that kind of folds out into a giant map, not useful. I just don't. I'm trying to think if I have anything that falls into this kind of category.
My wife's one of my wife's relatives just bought a brand new car, like a brand new Hyundai or something. And he was driving and he showed up to the place. We went to a party over the weekend and he showed up and he had like MapQuest directions.
Yikes.
Like literally printed out not even Google Maps, MapQuest.
So by the way, I remember the last time I did that. And I can tell you exactly when it was, because we were going to Germany and we had to go to East Boston to rent a phone that we could use in Europe. All right. So it's 2003, 12 years ago. I mean,
that makes sense when people didn't have navigation in their car. This guy has a Navi in his car. I mean, he has a really good navigation in his car.
I'm going to hit up everyone I know on AOL to let them know I'm going on a trip, and then we're going to use MapQuest to get there. No, it's 2015.
It was Map, and I was like, and I wasn't even questioning that he didn't plug it into the GPS. I was just questioning that he was using MapQuest and not Google Maps. Mind you, he does have an iPhone and he has a navigation. It's just whatever he knows. That's what he knows.
I will print out an airline ticket.
I do too. Yeah, I don't.
Even though I can on my phone do it electronically, and I do that as kind of a compulsive, just in case kind of thing.
God forbid you lose your phone or it breaks or battery runs out. Yeah, and that makes sense.
I think so.
Yeah. Oh, man, this is a show where we talk about people who don't use technology properly. That's what we're doing today. Yeah, but why not? We don't use.
I already berated him in person. Now let me do it virtually in front of an audience.
Yeah, in front of thousands of people. Let's.
This was like half the conversation. And we were probably in the car for something like 50 hours, and all he did was make fun of his Apple product.
Do you use a voicemail? Like, do you have a voicemail set up?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's not on a cassette. I mean, you get one with your phone now.
No, on your phone, yeah. But have you set yours up? Because I don't, like, half the people I call have never set up their voicemail.
Oh, yeah, I think it's set up. But I mean, it's just, it's not like I have a custom message. Hey guys, you reached Paul. Sorry, I can't come to, I mean, it's probably just whatever the,
whatever
default.
You've reached, 554.
I do get voice messages, so sure.
Yeah, nobody leaves me any messages. I just don't call back. I am actually awful with the phone. If you want to get in touch with me, you should never call me. You should text me, or you should
Yeah.
iMessage me, or Google message me, or Skype me. Never call me because I will never answer.
See, we're getting to the point now where our kids will make fun of us for like similar things. Like my kids will be like, "I can't believe you use email." "I can't believe you use Facebook. You're so old." In the same way that I'm kind of making fun of my dad.
Yeah.
But by the way, if I could if I could put the final nail in the coffin of my dad's old school thing, this goes back many years. In fact, by the way, here's a full circle one for you. This goes back to 2003 when we were going to Germany. So we're going to Germany in 2003. My dad, hearing this, sends me a book in the mail, and it is the Michelin Guide to West Germany, which isn't a country anymore. So this book was at the time something like 15 or 20 years old.
The Michelin Guide to West Germany.
West Germany.
Yeah.
Remember when there was like an East Germany?
Yeah,
and West Germany?
sure. There was
He
a
had
wall.
the West Germany Michelin Guide.
There was a
I
wall.
I'm trying to imagine how you could be more out of date than to send me the book of a country that no longer exists.
A map that says USSR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, so maybe this is something I've been going through with him for his entire life. I don't know. It's kind of strange, but
That's amazing.
yeah.
That's really cool. I'm fascinated by stuff like that. Like
Good,
people who
'cause you're
refer.
gonna enjoy today's Throwback Thursday.
Yeah,
You're gonna be,
it's gonna be.
you will be participating.
I cannot wait. My father actually calls them the Soviets still.
Awesome.
The Russians are always the Soviets in my father's mind.
Soviets.
The Soviets.
Those socialist bastards.
And he'll say something like, "Hey, listen, did you see what the Soviets did?" And I'm like,
when?
"No,
World War
what?
II?
When? What year?
Yeah,
1980?"
What century are we talking about here?
Yeah, we know. We know what's going on there. Oh man, I should do more Freddy impersonations on the show. Says somebody. Freddy's my father. He has a weird German accent, and he's not German. It's the most bizarre thing in the world. Let's take a little break. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. I have a couple questions for Paul. Paul and I got into the Skype convo, and we do this every now and then, where we actually start discussing show topics via Skype, and one of us yells at the other one and says, "Let's stop talking totally right now. Goodbye.
It's like,
we'll
this
save
is interesting, but maybe we should hold on to this.
Yeah. We're going to do all that. We have a Throwback Thursday on the post show that Paul is telling me that I'm going to love. And I'm positive
well, it's related.
I will.
I think you'll
It's
enjoy it.
related. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, let's talk about our sponsor this week, and it's Braintree. We spoke about Braintree a couple of weeks ago. A couple of you guys actually went to go use the code last week, and there was a little problem. It should be all fixed right now. I don't know what happened. I think we ran the ad a little too early for Braintree. But the ad is working. It's BraintreePayments.com/whatthetech. So what is Braintree? If you're a web developer, if you are a app developer, and you have a client that wants to accept payments, they want to accept mobile payments for whatever product that they're doing. I have a friend, he has a restaurant, and he's accepting mobile payments online. And rather than having to deal with a bunch of different types of code and a bunch of different types of services, Braintree combines everything into one. Companies that use them are Uber, Airbnb, Hotel Tonight, Living Social, the list goes on and on. It makes the payment process super easy via app. And the thing is, it accepts all different types of payments. So if you have PayPal, if you have Apple Pay, Bitcoin, a credit card, a bunch of different currencies, it accepts all of it. And here's the awesome part. The first 50,000 transactions are totally free. And it also takes a couple minutes just to put the code in and it goes live and it works. So 50,000 transactions, you're virtually getting to test drive this for the long haul absolutely for free. BraintreePayments.com/whatthetech. If you're a developer, if you know a developer, tell them to check this out because, to make it easy for them, it's better for everybody. And it's super secure. That's the other part that I was going to forget while telling you about this. Super, super secure. You don't have to worry about the credit card information going to the vendor. It creates a token, and that's how it gets processed. BraintreePayments.com/whatthetech. First 50,000 transactions, fee-free. Thanks a lot to Braintree for supporting What the Tech. And we love those guys. They're very nice people. They're very, very good people, Paul. I like to say that about my advertisers.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah. If they're awful people, you'll never hear me say they're awful people. I just won't acknowledge that. They're very good people. They're good boys and girls over there. So we got into this long discussion about, I don't know how it happened. I think I got an email, and the email asked if it's going to be possible to run full Windows on ARM devices since it's one Windows, it's one ecosystem, one everything. But the theory that he presented to us was, let's say a manufacturer wants to create, an OEM wants to create a Chromebook style, really inexpensive, Windows-based laptop, and he's using an ARM chipset inside. Can that theoretically work? Is that possible? And your answer was, well, I'm sure it's possible, but will it happen? I don't know.
Yeah. So the issue there is the screen size, and it's not clear whether ARM versions of Windows 10 occur that aren't phones, and I think the answer is going to be that they don't. But I don't know for sure. So my guess is that will not be happening.
I mean, when I got the email from him, I thought about that. I'm like, well, you know what? Who would manufacture? Let's say HP, right? Since they make the Stream 11 and they make those Chromebooks, they would be the ones that make this. But is there going to be that much of a price difference between those new system on a chip Intel chipsets and ARM?
Right.
I don't think so.
I don't either.
I think we're at a different place now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
when Windows first started pushing toward ARM had significant mobility advantages. It was sort of the chipset for mobile devices, And I think these days Intel's not exactly the same, but I think it's close enough.
It's getting there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not on the phone, but probably.
And it's just not as necessary for a traditional computing device. I mean, we have Internet of Things devices that are probably ARM chipsets or could be ARM chipsets. Obviously, Intel ones as well. Like, what's the Raspberry Pi 2? What's the chipset in that? What's the?
I think it's Intel now.
Or is it Intel?
I think it's Intel.
Okay, well that doesn't help.
You know what? I don't. Wait a minute. I may
sure.
be lying. I may be totally lying to you right now.
What is a Raspberry Pi?
What is a Raspberry Pi? No, it's ARM. It's ARM. It's ARM. It's ARM.
It is ARM.
Yeah.
So there you go. So that Windows runs on that, but that's not a. It's not a traditional form factor computer. So that's why I say you could, but will we see people selling those things?
Okay, so you could.
I don't think you're going to see like a Dell or an HP or whatever selling an ARM-based Windows.
Okay, but with
laptop.
this, right? With this ARM, it's a 900 megahertz quad core, the Raspberry Pi 2.
Yep.
Well, there's a Model B and a Model B Plus, so I don't know. Maybe the Model B Plus is the one.
No. They would have the same chipset.
They would have the same chipset. Let me see here.
Same basic.
Okay, so with this device, right?
Yeah.
I could run Windows on this. What kind of Windows am I running? I'm running full-fledged Windows.
On what?
On the Raspberry Pi.
Oh, I don't know. So actually, I'm not actually sure. So at the Build conference, they released Windows, 10. There's a name for it, like Windows. I think it's called Windows 10 IoT Core or something like that. I have not got. I just started writing an article about this. I'm going to be looking at that. I hope today, but I'm drooping, so maybe tomorrow. I'm not actually sure. So in other words, does it come up with a desktop? Does it have the apps? I don't know. I would imagine. I don't want to imagine. I'm not sure. So I know when you run Linux on it, because I've done that, the full desktop can come up. You can bring up, X Windows or whatever it's called, and you have a desktop and, a mouse and all that stuff. So I will be looking at that soon. I don't know. But I think the trick here, though, is not whether this kind of thing is possible, because the importance of the Windows compatibility there is with the wider ecosystem. You have an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi or a Galileo or whatever it is based thing, a little weather station, a little thermostat, a little, whatever it is. It's like it's something that's connected to sensors and it's doing something. It could be a home alarm. That thing could have a UI on it is not what's important. It's just that it's sitting there doing something and it's connected. That's the point of an IoT
So
device.
when we talk about Windows on this, we're not for a Raspberry Pi. We're not getting the Windows UI, but it's running Windows. You could build whatever interface you're going to have based on Windows.
It's possible the Windows UI is there. It's possible that you could make a little box PC, put it out in your living room, throw it out on HDMI, which I should say, this is not just possible. This works right now with Linux. I'm saying with Windows on Raspberry Pi. And this thing could be like a little set-top box, and it could display a UI to the screen, and you could control it with a remote control, perhaps, if you had that kind of interface, and use Windows apps. I mean, that's possible. I just don't see that as the mainstream use for this thing. I don't know, so I don't want to say. I really don't know.
Yeah, so I'm curious about this because he brought this up, and that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to run, Windows as we know it on the desktop and on a laptop? Are you going to be able to run Windows like that, or is it going to be something a little different?
Yep.
We don't know.
All I would say is it's mainstream computer stuff. I mean, this is sort of a moot question. Who cares? It's just Windows. It's going to be Windows on Intel. We already have Chromebook-like machines. There are Chromebooks that run on Intel chips. They just put a Windows on it. It's, you don't have to do anything. It's still, it's still going to be pretty great.
So, I asked Paul this question on Skype, and it's kind of led into something else here where, the whole concept of continuum, right? Where you could pick up where you left off and everything is the same and all the ecosystem. So it's one giant ecosystem. But I was thinking, what are some ways this could work? And I want the chat room to kind of participate with this. If this idea can possibly work, what are the what makes it not work? What makes it work even better? So with Windows Phone, a big angle for me would be, let's say I have my Windows Phone here. They sell a dock. I put this thing on a dock. I connect it to a monitor. I have a keyboard, and voila, look, it goes into desktop mode when I connect it to this dock.
Right.
And now I have Windows on any of these devices.
Not necessarily even connected to a dock, right? I mean, the notion of a dock is sort of old school, and there's no reason why we won't see those things. But it's perhaps even more likely that you would just come into your office at work and put your phone down on one of those wireless charging plates, and that this stuff would happen wirelessly.
Wirelessly, yeah, sure, yeah. Is that a possibility? And would that be more of a reason? Would that incline people to buy a Windows Phone? Because now, technically, every 2 years, you have a brand new computer at home also.
Yeah, maybe. I was always surprised. See, Google is the company that could throw this. Well, actually, I mean, Apple could too. I was surprised when Chrome OS happened on the Google side, because I always thought that Android would make a fine desktop OS. And I was surprised they didn't do that. And as we move forward, you see them combining Chrome OS and Android in interesting ways, right? There's going to be security type stuff where if you're present with your Android phone, you could just sign into your Chrome OS-based device, Chromebook, whatever, and so on. But it's still two different systems, and I think that's a little strange. On the Apple side, they created the iPhone based on Mac OS X, but it's still a completely different system. And there are things that are similar between them. They work together in ways that are very interesting. The continuity feature, I think it's called, that we talked about a little while ago. And that's kind of cool, too. But with Windows, somehow it's the first time where we see the platform maker making it possible to use one thing. And it is one thing. With Windows 10, it's like the one Windows thing. And it's interesting. So, anyway, 10 minutes later, will that sell Windows Phone? I mean, with Windows Phone, we've often asked that question about different things, and it never has.
Yeah,
so.
See, the argument, Josh brings up something interesting. He goes, I don't think so because Android had the dock, and it didn't really work. It didn't sell too well. But Android is not a familiar OS
on the
desktop.
But Google didn't do that, right? In other words, that wasn't a platform feature.
I think it was Motorola.
Yeah, it was like an Atrix phone or something.
Yeah.
Where you actually carried around a clamshell thing that looked like a laptop, but it didn't really do anything until you plugged the phone into the back, I think was how it worked.
It was something like that, yeah.
So, they didn't go in that direction. Android as a platform. Google, didn't go in that direction. And like I said, I was confused that they didn't. It's interesting to me that of the three big platform makers, that Microsoft is the one giving that a shot. I mean, I'm kind of biased toward Windows Phone because I love it so much. And when I saw that, I got really excited. To me, that was kind of the coolest thing that happened a couple weeks back at Build. And we're still many months away from seeing it really happen because it requires new Windows 10 based phones that have multiple cores and features in them that we just don't see today. We'll see. But you were asking earlier about it, like an ARM based laptop or something. That's what this thing sort of is, right? It's even more sophisticated than that, but now you're carrying around a phone, right? And I think fundamentally for a lot of people, that could work. I mean, there already are many hundreds of millions of people, perhaps billion or more, who can get most of their stuff done on a phone, especially like a big screen phone.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you had the ability to beam to a second screen, wirelessly connect to a keyboard and mouse, or not, because you can also use the stuff that's on the screen of the phone. That becomes very powerful, and that would eliminate the need to have a second computer for most of the rest of those people.
Oh, yeah, for many people. It just, I think the whole point is that it failed with Android because people are not familiar with Android OS, and it's
Well,
not something we
because it
want.
wasn't Android. See, it didn't fail with
It
Android. It failed with Motorola, who made a one-off.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's not
I
really
don't
fair
remember
to Google. Never did a big platform push to make this
what
happen.
was it called again.
For some reason I have the word Atrix in my head. Atrix.
Yeah, the
Something
lap
like that.
dock. Yeah, the Atrix lap dock. Was that it? Yeah, that was it. Yep, I'm looking at it right now. The Motorola Atrix
And it's the
lap
type of
dock.
thing, you see that and it's like, oh, that's interesting. Is that what it was, an Atrix? Yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah,
like a dock on the back of the laptop.
but
So,
I'm trying to look at the OS. I'm trying to get shots of the OS
well, it's
here.
just, I mean, it would have to be, it would have to be Android, right?
Yeah, it looks like a different Linux, variant. That's all it
Yeah.
looks like to me.
So I would just say, I would say it like this. The Microsoft, it's exciting. And to me, it's exciting. Um, but if you look at it pragmatically, it, you know, if you only need a computer some of the time, you could say that Google's current strategy of having these Chrome OS laptops and things, might make as much sense too, right? Even though it's the second thing maybe you carry around. But if you're just going to an office and using the stuff that's there, you would just be going to an office and using the computer that was there. What's the difference? And that the benefit of having everything on the one device is somewhat mitigated by having everything in the cloud, and that it shouldn't matter what device you have. That this kind of pack rat mentality of I have everything with me all the time. Well, we all do. It's on, it's in the internet.
It's in the internet, yeah.
I'm just trying to play devil's advocate because I look at that and I think it's excellent, but I also sort of think, well, there's a lot of other things that Windows did that was excellent. That Windows Phone in particular, that hasn't caused the platform to take off. So, is that enough? I don't know.
I don't know if that one thing would be enough, but I think it's a combination of things. I think it's just getting people familiar with. Technically, if you think about it, they should have the advantage because nearly the entire world has a Windows-based machine, computer at home. So why not stick to something you understand and you're familiar with, and something that's going to kind of coexist between devices?
Well, okay, but so I guess for every particular scenario, we could kind of think through why this would not work, right? I mean, who is this person you're talking about? Like, we all have Windows computers. Who are we? Are we like individuals, like consumers? Are we people who work in a business because they have Windows there?
Consumers. I mean, just regular Joe Schmo going home and he has like a Windows computer at home.
Well, I mean, how does having a Windows computer at home and having a Windows or any phone in your pocket? I mean, what's the difference if you're just going to use it at home anyway?
See, yeah, I guess what I'm doing is it's like an old school mentality where you want to stay in the same ecosystem amongst all the devices, and that's how Apple. Think about Apple.
Well,
That was
you
Apple's
do.
mentality.
Actually, you sort of do want to do that, but yeah. I mean, I think about the ecosystem stuff a lot because I sort of there are things I like on each platform a little bit better than the other, and unfortunately, if you say something like, and I'm just making this one up, but let's say for whatever reason, I really like iTunes. I know that sounds like an insane person thing to say, but and I buy a lot of music on iTunes, and I buy movies on iTunes, and all that kind of stuff. I love iTunes for some reason. When you do that, you're kind of restricting what you can do out in the world because iTunes doesn't work on Android at all. And iTunes works on Windows, but only on Windows PCs. So by buying into iTunes, you're kind of pushing yourself toward an Apple ecosystem because iTunes also works on Macs and it works on all these Apple devices. And if Apple ever does the iPad Pro kind of deal, you'll move along like that and you'll move away from Google stuff and away from Microsoft stuff.
But Microsoft has a totally different mentality when it comes to this, where they're putting their stuff on every ecosystem and every phone and every platform. So, and you're getting all the services.
Not everything, but a lot of things. Yeah.
I mean, here's a situation I'm in, right?
Mm-hmm.
My wife has an iOS device. My entire family has an iOS device. I have a MacBook, and I talk to everybody via iMessage.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't have an iPhone, I would have to text everybody. Or if I didn't have I would have to actually send a text.
Yep.
So I'm in this in between because I also have a Google phone. I have an Android phone, and I'm using Google Talk with certain people, and it's easy to do Google Talk, but some of them don't have Google Talk. They have iOS. So like I'm jumping, ecosystem with this. But with Microsoft, it's Skype. That's a messaging platform, right?
Yes, and it works everywhere.
Everywhere.
But that said, I would never use Skype to talk to people on a cell phone personally.
Yeah.
I would just use messaging, you know.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. You know, I guess people are going to go based on what their relatives have also. You know, that's another thing. If this is like a big deal for you, like,
Sure.
you know what's interesting actually? Verizon has this video calling feature on if you have that I forgot what advanced calling, right? Do you know
Hmm.
like AT&T has that too. But on Verizon, if you have advanced calling set up, you could actually do a video chat via within the Verizon network.
Yes.
And it's strange. Like it works really well, but it's
That's the
bizarre.
type of relationship I don't ever want to have. So it reminds me of when your cable company wants to sell you movies that you can own.
Mm-hmm.
I know, you know, no, 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 not from my cable company. You know, when you were talking earlier about using iMessage or whatever, I don't use Apple products that way, so I don't do that. But I do understand it, and I understand that a lot of people, just everyone they know has some Apple phone or whatever, and that's what they use, and that's fine. But sort of latching onto a Verizon only, like you know, like those Sprint family plan things they used to have, where you know, or maybe still have, where it's like, you know, if everyone you knew was just on this one carrier, it would not cost you anything to talk, or
Yeah.
you'd have better services and stuff. And it's like that. That's the kind of baloney lock in that I just don't agree with at all. Like, there's no rationalization for that. It's just, you know,
But they're all
baloney.
doing it. I mean, AT&T's doing it and Verizon's doing it. I don't know if T-Mobile's doing it, but you know, they
I
want to
just
kind of
ignore
lock you
stuff
into
like
the
that.
ecosystem because they think the more you use this stuff, the more inclined you are not to leave. And I don't know if that's true, really.
I mean, I like AT&T to be honest, but the truth is, I don't evangelize or sell anyone on AT&T. Like, I have good results with it. I travel. It's nice for international stuff, et cetera, et cetera. I'll tell you why I use it, but I would never, if you were on Verizon, which I think you are, right? You're on
Yeah.
Verizon. I would never, we'd never be sitting at Brian like, Andrew, listen to me. You have to get off of
You
Verizon.
have to.
Android, I mean, AT&T is the best. I don't think people have those
Yeah,
conversations. Like I just,
their weekly reminders are the best
yeah,
that you're
yeah,
not
yeah,
using
that's
their
right. Those
antivirus.
constant selling emails that I get about some service I don't need are just, oh, they're the best. I just don't. I don't think people think like that.
Yeah, I
I
guess
don't.
not. Paul, on your website, on Thurrott.com, if people don't
Yes,
know, Paul has a great website called Thurrott.com. All he does is post selfies. That's
that's
it.
right.
That's all it is. It's just pictures
Yep.
of him constantly. You wrote this article called "The Last Version of Windows,"
Yeah.
and this you kind of covered a misquote or a quote that was taken
Oh,
literally, right? It
yeah.
wasn't a misquote; it was actually taken literally.
Because it's
And
the internet, and we have to take everything literally.
yeah, so I want to talk to you about this on
Yeah.
what they meant by the last version of Windows and why people picked it up as the actual last version of Windows.
So, yeah, I mean, so a Microsoft employee speaking in a session at Ignite said something to the tune of, because this is the last version of Windows, meaning because we're not working on Windows 11 right now, and we're almost shipping it. And then he continued the sentence. And when asked for clarification, Microsoft responded with an official quote where they said, he's just referring to the Windows as a service thing that we're doing, where we plan to continue updating Windows with new features and with security updates and all that kind of stuff going forward. We're going to update the apps. Like, a lot of the functionality that used to be in the OS is now in apps, and we update those things on their own schedule. And this thing's going to be updated like an online service, continually. I
So
think
can you
this
give
was
me an example of that app? Like, give me an example of an app that used to be in the OS and now it's its own application that could constantly be updated.
Yeah, well, I mean, any of them actually in Windows 10. So for example,
Mail.
if you bought I will, if you bought a copy of Windows 7 or earlier, it came with a calculator app, right? As dumb as it sounds, calc.exe is almost certainly, it's probably in the Windows folder. It could be someplace under programs. I'm going to look right now. But because I'm still running an old version of Windows, it is, yep, it's in the System32 folder. It's part of the Windows operating system. In Windows 10, when you run the calculator, it's a universal app. It's a modern app, and it's something that is in the store. You could actually go to the Windows Store and find the calculator app. You could delete it from your computer. You could reinstall it. It's now serviced outside of the operating system.
Yeah.
It's a small example, but it's it's not the only way that Windows gets updated as a service, because they will be in fact updating the Core OS as well. But it creates another channel by which these things can be updated. Things like Paint and WordPad and all the little utilities that are built into Notepad, to Windows, like Notepad, are actually part of the OS, right? That means they're on the same servicing schedule as the OS. It means they're on the same lifecycle support timeline as the base OS. They are part of Windows. They're Windows. But when you make them into these modern apps, everything
They
changes.
can constantly be updated. I mean,
Yeah, and
bug fixes, updates, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one part of it. That's not actually all of it. But I think the big miscommunication here is that there's a lot of stuff going on with Microsoft right now where they want to promote the fact that Windows 10 is different, because they had a lot of people that stayed on old versions of Windows and didn't move forward, in particular Windows XP, but now they're worried about it happening with Windows 7 as well. And there are really good reasons to get most Windows users on the same version of Windows. And it's not about Microsoft making more money or anything like that, although there are selfish reasons, from Microsoft's perspective as well. But it's about having a security and functional baseline for Windows, that when Microsoft moves forward with new things, they know that it will impact everybody, not just some people. If you put a bunch of new features into Windows 8.1 or Windows 8 and no one upgrades from Windows 7 or Windows XP, then you have in effect done nothing. If there are great new security features in that latest version of Windows and no one updates to it, it's like that security feature doesn't exist because you're still using the insecure older version. And so they're trying to treat Windows as more of a service where, yes, businesses can kind of opt out to some things for some amount of time, but eventually they get swept into the mainstream updating schedule, and those systems will get upgraded as well. And now we're all in a single system moving forward. So if you think about, to kind of give you the parallel to the cloud side, the server side, Microsoft used to have these separate servers like Exchange Server, SharePoint Server, Office Communication Server, Link Server, whatever. Now these things are all sold together through the cloud. And so as those things are updated, they're all updated for everyone. But the other half of the story is everyone also gets everything. So in the past, you might have a customer who had Exchange but didn't have SharePoint. So if they rev SharePoint, that wouldn't benefit the people at Exchange. It would only benefit the people at SharePoint. But putting them together also allows them to have features that work across those two servers. And so now, because they know everyone has everything, they can come up with new stuff like Office Delve and Office Graph and so forth that never made sense in the past, because now they know everyone has everything. So anyway, on the client side, they're trying to, in other words, Windows is still going to go out the door on new PCs, but they want to make sure it stays up to date because now we're all in the same boat. And now when security updates occur, everyone gets updated. When new features are added, everyone gets new features. You don't have to worry about what version of Windows you're on.
So
but here's the trick. I'm sorry, I didn't finish. Sorry, it's complicated. But
no.
Just so we're clear, this is just an evolution of what they've already been doing. This is not, in fact, anything new. They're trying to promote it as something new. It's like One Windows, it's brand new. Like, oh, look, Xbox is going to be running Windows 10. Xbox is running Windows 8 today. They just don't promote it. It's not really new. It's just, they want to promote it as new because they want the Windows 7 guys to perk up and say, oh, I better upgrade. It's not really new. So it's more marketing than reality.
It seems like every week now, like this was this week's panic from Microsoft. Last week was,
sure.
and this is crazy. I mean, we discussed it on the show last week. We were talking about how Microsoft is making it easier for developers to port over applications from iOS and Android. I read that article. The first time I read that article, that is exactly what I understood from it. I have been correcting people constantly that Microsoft is not letting iOS apps into their store in the sense that it's doing some sort of, emulation. Yeah, it's not. It's emulating it, and everybody's comparing it to BlackBerry, and everybody's saying, "Well, why? How is that going to work?"
It didn't work for BlackBerry. Why is it going to work?
Didn't work. Yeah, and that's the thing. And I keep telling them, like, no, your story is wrong. You are wrong right now. It was I don't know, maybe the title was wrong, maybe it was presented to you in that way, which it was. I saw a lot of sites doing that. They're not emulating an iOS application in the Windows Store. They're just making it easier for the developer to port it over and bring it over.
Well, this is the dark side of making announcements at a developer show. People hear the announcement and they think in their own context, and what they're not realizing is This was about developers.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about you.
Yeah.
You didn't buy Candy Crush on the iOS store and now can run it on Windows Phone. That's not the point.
Yeah. But back to this one. Why did so? But this is you're absolutely right. This is something that they've been doing up until now, where they're trying to make these updates a little bit better.
So, all right. I mean, I don't want to. I'm not going to call people out for the false statements.
I think you should.
But I would just say, you can take something really literally and say, well, this is the last version of Windows. Someone from Microsoft said it. Let's contract that sentence further. Microsoft said this is the last version of Windows. Not exactly.
I mean,
if Microsoft, by the way, if they put out a press release, I guess we can have a different conversation. But the truth is, this is just a nuanced way of looking at what they already said they were doing, which is, we're gonna update this thing going forward. We're not going to be in the 3-year plan. We're not going to we don't have plans right now, but by the way, things change to release a Windows 11 or something.
Yeah.
But things that need names, there are going to be names, right? They got confused about the stuff post Windows 8, and so we had Windows 8.1, simple enough. We had Windows 8.1 Update 1, which was the sort of update, and then it was like the Windows 8.1 update, and it had these stupid names, GDAR 1, whatever. It needs a name. It's a thing,
Hasn't Apple been doing that? Isn't that what Apple's been doing for the last 10 years?
Yeah, I mean they have names,
Yeah.
and we need to be able to call these things something. We know there are updates coming to Windows 10 after it's released. So is that a new version? Is it an update? I don't know. But I mean, at some point, a year's going to go by, 2 years is going to go by, 3 years is going to go by. We may still be calling it Windows 10. We may just call it Windows. We may have a Windows 11. Things may just change again. I don't know. No one knows. And so to act like this was some big announcement is disingenuous. They really didn't say anything new, and nothing has changed. And this is not a news story. And I sort of didn't want to write about it, but I saw it in enough places where I was like, okay, I guess I have to address this. Yeah. It's just not important. But God, everything is so important to everybody now.
Everything.
It's so important.
Yeah. I want to take a little break and talk about our Patreon campaign, guys. If you're watching us live on gfqlive.tv, we record the show mostly on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. East.
Sometimes on Tuesdays.
Sometimes on Tuesdays, sometimes on Thursdays. It depends what the schedule's like. We're a little relaxed here at the GFQ Network. We try to be on schedule every single week, but sometimes things come up, like work and traveling and things like that. But we also do a bonus show right after the show. If you're watching live, you can continue watching the show live. I just got a message and I got distracted. It's at gfqlive.tv. We do a bonus show called What to Talk, where we talk about pretty much anything and everything. Whatever we're doing. Today we're going to be doing a Throwback Tuesday. Paul's going to bring something out from the past, and we're going to discuss it. And it seems like you guys are really enjoying it because a lot of people have been signing up to Patreon to get that bonus content. Bonus content is available exclusively on Patreon, patreon.com/whatthetech. It's our funding program, so you can fund us anything you want. $1, $2, 50 cents, a nickel, a quarter, whatever it is. And as a thank you, we offer you a bonus show that we do right after this. I just want to thank everybody that's been doing it. And if you're going to do it, thank you again. If you're not doing it, thanks for watching anyway. Doesn't matter to me. I'm glad that you guys are tuning in and hanging out with us and watching us each and every week. Let's talk about Verizon buying AOL, Paul.
Okay.
Boy, I feel like we went back to 2001.
Yeah.
Or 2000 when the merger happened with AOL Time Warner.
I sort of enjoyed this story because it let me revisit the past.
Yeah, yeah, and that was a failure of biblical proportions. I mean, the thing.
Well, that was okay. This is like the height of the .com era. That was such a weird deal because of the stock market craziness. AOL had more pretend money than Time Warner, and so they technically bought Time Warner, but Time Warner actually had far bigger revenues and more assets.
Yeah,
and of course, then the stock market crashed, and AOL was shown to have had no money or no strategy or no product, no nothing, and all the guys from AOL left the company over time, and the company renamed itself to Time Warner, and then it got rid of AOL. I mean, it was just the most bizarre, terrible merger of all time.
And did they gain anything? Like, what was Time Warner gaining from that merger?
Synergy.
Yeah. I guess
seriously.
so.
This was the age of synergy. It was old media, new media. it was like, we're going to combine these things. And, it was the mentality that led earlier to such things as MSNBC or,
Yeah.
it's like, we're going to, you still see this. I mean,
What
TV
is
shows
the-
and news shows will have like tweets from people and, it's like this, because this stuff has to all be together.
Yeah,
It's like
it makes sense. I'm a big boy. You're a big boy. Let's hang out together. That
was a disaster. So,
yeah.
So yeah, that didn't
Poor
work.
Ted Turner.
This is different. I mean, this is a different thing. Well, is it though? I guess it is different, if only because the stakes are so much lower.
It is different, and AOL actually has a lot of revenue generating properties other than their dial-up business, which that's what it was at that point.
By the way,
Yeah.
there's still, I think the figure was 2 million people
2.3 million
still use AOL for dial-up.
Yeah.
That's
Who are
tough.
those people?
I don't know.
I guess I mean
I don't know.
if you are forced into dial-up and
Yeah.
you live in the middle of the freaking desert and you're forced to get dial-up,
I'd almost like to dial up now just to see what it was like. In other words,
how difficult it would be.
yeah. I mean, could I get work done on dial-up? Not counting such things as downloading like an ISO file or something. I mean, could I browse to websites, read news sites, post articles? I don't know.
Early 3G was almost like dial-up speeds.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
2G.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that was like dial-up, and we managed with it. But the interesting thing here is all the tech properties, the tech blog properties that Verizon is now going to own. And I totally forgot about this. John, our editor, sent me a thing. He goes, you remember Sugar String last year?
I saw that in the notes, and I don't even know what this
So
is.
Sugar String was a bizarro tech blog that Verizon created, and they got a lot of crap during the net neutrality stuff that was happening around the time. It was like October, November. And
so this is recent.
Yeah, so they pretty much refused to write any negative blog posts or articles on Verizon's stance on net neutrality.
That's
on
good
that
stuff.
on that site, and they got so much crap about it, they shut it down after a month. The entire concept of the website, they just shut it down. So I don't know. I mean, does this have anything to do with that? Maybe they do want to get into that, that market with.
Yep, I lost your audio.
You lost my audio. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Hello, hello. 1 second. So Paul can't hear me because.
There you go.
Okay, now you can hear me.
Yep.
Well, my audio system is overheating, apparently. That's what happened. It totally shut down and restart because it overheated. So we'll have to deal with this. No, but what they do you? I was thinking the reason why they're grabbing AOL is not because of the dial-up. They're saying it's because of their media library. You know what I mean? But I don't think it has anything to do with that. It's content and it's advertising, and more advertising than anything else, because AOL has figured out a way to make some money post
So
being
by the
an
way,
ISP.
I don't have any problem with AOL making money on advertising, because that makes sense in the context of what they are, which is literally a dumb pipe. AOL wanting to get into the content business is dumb. It's as dumb as when Microsoft tried to do it. It just doesn't make sense. That's not their core business. It's the thing I was just talking to you about earlier. I don't go to my cable company to buy movies. They're the dumb pipe. I buy movies from whoever I choose to buy movies from, and I put them. I sort of watch them over whatever pipe I may be paying.
Yeah.
For. They're the pipe. Now they want to, increase revenues and all that kind of stuff. The way that they do that, I don't think, is by content. I think it's by, advertising, and that's fine. I sort of get that. But I bet they get rid of some of this content. I bet I don't remember the exact list of sites that they own, but the Huffington Post being the big one. I wouldn't be surprised to see them get that
Huffington Post, TechCrunch, Engadget, Makers, AOL.com, and a bunch of other properties. I don't know. I know that when AOL grabbed a lot of these Engadget properties, and they shut down a lot. They bought a lot of properties, and then they shut down a lot of properties. I remember. I can't remember the companies that they got rid of, but it was a really large amount of the companies that they had acquired over the last couple of years. They just consolidated everything into one when they grabbed a couple of the big ones. But AOL's going to make a bunch of money from. Verizon's going to make a bunch of money just by advertising revenue on this, and that's a strange way of them competing.
We'll see.
They're technically competing with Google now. in that sense.
Yeah, sure.
Online ads.
And that's, I mean, I think that's a world where we need more competition, so that's fine.
Looking here, it says AOL. I'm looking at your site. Scaled mobile first estimates nearly 600 billion global advertising. It's a $600 billion global advertising industry. Right. Verizon noted. So they want to start tapping into this and start making some money outside of them being an ISP. Maybe this is their way of not becoming an AOL.
Yeah,
they're thinking ahead.
Well, I almost blurted out the word Yahoo earlier, and the truth is, Yahoo, being a content company, like a media company, is one of the two things Yahoo could do. So when Yahoo has original programming, right, like Netflix does, whether it's websites or TV shows or whatever, like I think, isn't Yahoo doing, is it Arrested Development or?
No, Yahoo's doing something else, but where do you watch it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Like, where do you watch Yahoo original content?
Like Yahoo.com.
They have wait a minute. They have Yahoo
must have
TV.
Roku channels and things.
I don't know.
Right. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's not worry about that. Let's not get sidetracked. But they are a content company. Like that, to me, that's fine. You go there for content, whoever you are. I mean, I don't, but people do, and that's fine. I think that's fine. Verizon as a content company, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, now a lot of people are freaking out.
Community was the show I was trying to think of.
Is it Community?
Yeah, Community's on Yahoo. And so you could go to yahoo.com, I guess, on the web, and you could watch it on the web. And that's sad and weird. And there are other things there. Yeah,
I'm just trying to, I'm on Yahoo's. It's so weird because Yahoo's trying to be this hip company and do it, but when you go to their website, it's still like the old Yahoo,
Sure. There must be, I don't want to I could get sidetracked by this. There's got to be a way to watch Yahoo content.
It's called Yahoo Screen. Yahoo Screen.
Yeah, but is there like a Yahoo Screen mobile app?
Screen.yahoo.com is the website, and it's just exactly what Yahoo is.
So there is or is there?
Yeah, Community episode 10.
Yeah, there is. Okay, so it's on Android.
It is where? Like their own app. But I can't watch. Can I watch this on? Well, of course. So Vizio TVs have it apparently. You can watch it on a Vizio.
Chromecast, right?
Yeah, Josh on our chat says Yahoo TV is a platform app. I think Vizio TVs use them along with YouTube, Netflix, etc.
It's on Roku.
Yahoo Screen is on Roku. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. That's how you would do it.
Oh, that's so bizarre.
I assume they have advertising, right? That must be the point. So you're watching this terrible TV show, or even a good TV show, whatever it is.
They have Yahoo Live.
They have a live. Do they have a live feed? That's hilarious. I'm going to look at this tonight. This is funny to me. They have SNL archive clips. That's concerts from Live
Nation. But
Nation.
Here's the thing. I mean, none of us know what's going on. Like, you and I should know this.
It's on Yahoo.
And that's a problem. I mean, that's a big problem when we don't know what's on and when it's on and where how you
Yahoo,
get it.
What's this thing called? Yahoo Screen. I'm going to watch this tonight. This is my thing. I'm going to watch this.
Well, they have a bunch of weird stuff on here.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm curious on how this is doing. I can't imagine it doing really well right now.
No, I don't think so either.
I mean, but back to AOL.
I give them credit for trying. It's okay,
I mean, AOL has a lot of content, video content, and it just, again, almost the same exact thing. Like, where do you go to watch it? How do you watch it? It just still this question there. I think it really comes down to the fact that Google has, YouTube, and YouTube has become synonymous with video content. And but Google's not doing great stuff with original content. I mean, they have YouTube, and that's their original content, but it's not their content. It's not network struck deal content. I guess they have that too. Yeah, they have that too. I guess Netflix is the only one doing it right. That's what I'm gonna say. All right, Paul. Let's wrap it up a little early today because it's really hot in here. And,
sorry, just real quick. It's also on Apple TV.
It's also Yahoo is also on Apple TV.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to check it out tonight.
iPod Touch and iPad.
Guys, is it on the Amazon Fire? Is it on the Fire TV? Let's find that out. All right, guys, go to our website, gfknetwork.com. If you miss any portion of the show, of course, you can catch it archived there. It's also on therot.com for all things Paul Thurrott. Go there. You can follow Paul on Twitter at Thurrott. You can follow me at Andrew Zarian. Hey, also, if you want to help us out here at the GFQ Network, use our Amazon link. Go to gfq.co/Amazon, bookmark it, and whenever you buy something on Amazon, we get a tiny little credit. Someone bought a ridiculously expensive, like, home automation system on Amazon. So whoever you were, thank you. Because we're getting new cameras, and I think you just bought half of them. Until next time, guys, take care.